Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and today we've got a very special guest. Her name is Jodi Scott. And Jodi is an amazing woman. She's an entrepreneur. She's got a great story about founding a natural herbal company and sort of actually quite a story. I'm looking forward to hearing some of it. So, Jodi's got a background in biology, health, psychology, psycho psychoneuroimmunology. Wow, okay, that's a big old word. I don't know how you fit into that one, but that's fantastic. Well, Jodi, without getting too crazy into it, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you join us. I'm looking forward to hearing your story.
Pleasure to be here with you. Thank you, Joe.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of your background? You started this Green Goo company years ago, and apparently you got family involved. Why don't you just jump back and tell us a little bit about how you came to this spot?
Been all kinds of fun. I tell you what, quite the journey.
Yeah.
So my mom, sister, and I started Green Goo almost maybe 15 years ago when we first started. So
Okay.
to your point, I got my master's in health psychology, specialized in psychoneuroimmunology. You did a
I
great
didn't even know
job.
that was a thing. I love it.
You did great. And was training resident physicians on the biopsychosocial model. So, in sum, my goal was to change the wellness journey. And so, for example, by working with physicians, it was to teach them rather than just prescribing, let's look at the patient as a whole so we can further their intervention or what have you and lifestyle changes that may need to happen in order for them to have great results. And psychoneuroimmunology is very much this relationship of your mind and your body and how your nervous system, your immune system, and your mindset and psychology all work together hand in hand in your wellness journey. And my
This is
sister,
huge. I don't want to interrupt you, but what you
no.
just said is so impactful. Many episodes of this show talk about just that, the holistic approach to the wellness journey. And, I am in the final strokes of defeating cancer right now, and that was a whole, year and a half major battle, including all those things you said.
Mm.
And the mindset and the, approaching it as a whole and all of these things. I think it's just so important for the listeners to realize that that's where we're coming from.
And it's just a key. And when you know that you can turn that key and be a part of that to optimize so you can fully show up and enjoy life in a greater way, it's pretty great. So, and congratulations on your journey and recovery. So,
Yeah. Getting close to the finish line here.
way to go. So, and then my sister's an herbalist and a
Okay.
midwife.
Nice.
And my mom is a self-taught computer programmer, website developer. We grew up in the military. So you got to have one techie in the bunch, right?
Wow. So we have
Yeah,
quite a talented family here.
it was quite the trifecta. And so what we found like really interesting is that we were living this clean life, right? We were eating organic foods, healthy choices. We were picking the natural shampoo out. But when you opened up our first aid cabinet, it was all the exceptions, one time use, chemical laden products.
Yeah.
And we asked ourselves, why? Why are we doing this? And what we found really interesting is we weren't alone. The natural consumer was willing to abandon their natural ethos because they were told, just like we believe as well, that these one time chemical use products were the only products that could get the job done. And then even more so, the conventional consumer is like, I don't care what the ingredients are. I just want something that works better because I
Yeah.
find it really inconvenient that I can only use this thing for 7 to 10 days.
Right.
Symptoms persist, go see your physician. And chronic skin conditions are at an all-time high.
Mhm.
And so we're consuming these things in a very large volume. And so we thought, well, what if we can make a brand that is superior in efficacy and also, by the way, plant-based and sustainable? So Green Goo was
Like it.
born.
Nice. Well, tell me about Green Goo.
So Green Goo, we started in the first aid space, and we very specifically looked at consumer behavior and said, okay, what is it that the customer is looking for? So we saw they were looking for, something for cuts and scrapes, topical antiseptic. They're looking for anti-inflammatory, anti-itch, especially specifically for eczema, uh, analgesics, for chronic pain. So we really focused on sort of those first and foremost. And so our Green Goo First Aid was originally designed first to be just a topical antiseptic. But again, looking at all of the symptom relief that people are wanting and going, okay, let's stick to our mantra. We want you to declutter your first aid cabinet.
All right.
What if we can make a portable first aid kit in one little tin? So our first aid is for cuts and scrapes, but bug bites, bee stings, poison ivy, cold sores, abrasions, blisters, sunburn, lip balm. It is your first aid on the go. And it's one of those things that like you didn't even know you needed it until you have it. And then you have it with you everywhere you go. Kids love it because it takes the sting and the itch out, and it's packed with herbs.
Nice.
And something which is really fun about this that I think is important to note, when we first started doing this, we were growing the herbs in our backyard. We had
Mhm.
our bees. So we were, pulling the beeswax from our bees and uh, drying the herbs on old screen doors.
I
And
love
so
it.
you'd walk by our house and you see all these screen doors with like all these plants drying on them. And then we turned our kitchen into, our production facility, and we were infusing and so forth. And it got so nuts that we had to take our camping equipment and build an outdoor kitchen for our personal cooking because the kitchen took over.
Wow.
And why Green Goo works is because of not only the herbs and plants that we're choosing and the plant-based oils that work with our skin, but because of the process. We're protecting the integrity of the plant,
Mhm.
and we're not exposing it to high heat or denaturing it with various chemicals or reducing its efficacy. And so today, even to this day, we still bring the plant to our manufacturing facility where we take it through this unique extraction process, yield high amounts of the medicinal properties from the plants, and then these custom oils go into the Green Goo formula. So you can't get this blend anywhere else. And that rich oil, that botanical, is why it works so well.
Nice. Nice. So y- your company started taking off, and it sounds like you went into sort of this. I don't know. Based on what I was looking at, you went through a typical growth, kind of like Burt's Bees, where you got big, and then you got an offer, and you went and sold off.
So we grew to 150,000 points of distribution in less than 5 years. It was nuts, fight or flight all the way. Then the pandemic happened, and we were like 98% retail,
Mhm.
something like that. And now no one's going into the stores.
All right.
And so we had to pivot really, really fast and create an online business, which we didn't originally because if you had poison ivy, you went to your local pharmacy and that's how you solved the problem, right?
All right.
Well, now, thankfully our team was just so amazing and so agile. We were able to build this online business. We're shipping boxes till 4 or 5 in the morning. We have 20 shipping locations because the whole world's trying to ship at one time.
Wow.
Everyone wants packaging, and we weather it. We get through it, and we didn't have to terminate a single employee. But when
Wow.
we got on the other side of that, we knew that we had exposure. We were competing against the biggest companies in the world, and a family business, Green Goo, cannot compete with that,
All
nor
right.
can we weather something really difficult like that again. And so we started looking for financial partners. And, we authentically chose this group because they were passionate about plant-based medicine and taking it global.
Mhm.
And, I think authentically the relationship was good in terms of what we could do and expand. But unfortunately, one of the founders faced major legal and financial issues after we started this relationship with them. And so we didn't own it anymore. We put it into their portfolio.
Okay.
And we were there working with them, though, to expand.
Mhm.
And so in less than 24 hours, we had to terminate our entire team. My
Oh, whoa.
mom, my sister, my husband, my brother-in-law, employee
Whoa.
number one, everyone gone after we'd worked so hard to keep everyone, after the pan or during the pandemic. And so That was a pretty tough time. Not only did we lose our team, we lost our company, we lost our sense of purpose. And
Wow.
we have customers emailing us like, when are we going to be back in stock? Because we've stopped production. My son is a paraplegic. This is the only thing that works. My mom is a diabetic. This is the only thing that works. I mean, the emails are just coming in. And at one point, I was telling someone, I like pulled out my lip balm and I was with my mom and sister, and, we're having our tearful moment. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how much more lip balm I have. Do I have enough face wash? And like my skin repair is like my anti-aging go-to. I'm like, I can't live without this stuff. And so
Right.
we start checking each other's inventory. And then that's when we realize, we have to buy this company back.
Right.
So we spent 18 months buying back this company, which was really tough because you've spent the first part of the business go, 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 and you
Right.
can't go, go, go. And from an entrepreneurial standpoint and from a wellness standpoint, this was really a big shift in terms of how to stay mentally fit and physically well during an incredibly challenging time. And, I was really fortunate that I had had this coach that I had just recently hired right before the layoffs. And I'd only, been with him for a few months. And I let him know, I said, hey, Monday, 5 o'clock, I'm not going to be there. I can't pay you. And he was like, you show up, Jodi, 5 o'clock on Monday. I will be there every Monday to help you. And I mean, that was sweet. But when you are feeling that overwhelming sense of like the world is crashing on you, even that didn't feel like I could show up. You're just like, you can't even move. You're so overwhelmed.
Right.
And I showed up on Monday because I thought he was a really nice guy and I didn't want to let him down. But it was very difficult for me to show up that day. And man, he put me, he's like, all right, you just started boot camp. I'm like, what? And he's like, yep, mental fitness boot camp. He's like, you're going to set your alarm every 3 hours and we're going to do presence exercises. I'm like, what is that?
Wow.
And he's like, I'm going to get you mentally fit and you're going to keep working on being physically fit. And we're going to get you through this so that you have clarity and you have the creativity that you're going to need and the confidence to go in and have these meetings and find a way to get this thing done. And
Well,
so,
what a blessing that you found this guy, because that is such a, as an entrepreneur myself, we find ourselves just going incessantly. Like there's like we can do it, we always just dig a little deeper and find another way, and you just keep going. And the wisdom of taking a moment and getting mindful and being present and going, okay, what am I doing right now? Because we'll lose hours and hours being in a frenzy of something, and then you look back and you're like, oh shoot, I shouldn't have done that. I needed to do this other thing. But that 5 minutes of being mindful might have kept you from, wasting all that extra time and energy.
you nailed it. And I always thought resilience was like grit and
Yeah,
showing up and pushing
keep
harder.
on coming. Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh, resilience is actually pausing and getting present.
Right.
And resilience is when you feel yourself in that overdrive moment, having the ability to get back centered.
Yeah.
And he was spot on in terms of this mental fitness because, I remember being the first time, okay, I was like, I'm going to listen to the birds, really? And,
I don't have
and
time for the birds. I'll do that when I'm dead.
right. And
Yeah.
then, so you're working really hard. And then all of a
Right.
sudden, like you're doing it for 30 seconds and then you're doing it for 2 minutes. And then you're feeling your feet. You're taking some deep breaths. You're feeling your movement. And you do that every 3 hours consistently enough, you start to crave it and you start to
Right.
want to do it longer. And
Yeah.
then when you're in a tough situation, you like all of a sudden know how to do that.
Mhm.
And when you feel yourself getting off center for too long, you know exactly like, okay, it's time to bring it back. And it's just a whole new way of living and doing entrepreneurial efforts and even parenting. Like my daughter, the halo effect that happens when you introduce this into your world. Like
I love it.
it was so cool. My daughter was saying, Mom, I had
How
the
old is
weird
your daughter?
14.
Okay.
And she's like, I had the weirdest conversation with my teacher today. I'm like, what's that? She was like, he pulled me aside and said, I need to talk to you about how you took your test. And she's like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And he's like, It was so incredible to see how present and focused you were. You rubbed your fingertips together, you took a couple deep breaths, and you were so locked in. And you went and you answered the questions you knew very carefully. And then you came back to the ones you didn't know and worked through it. And he was like, you were so present. And Kira was like, it was so weird. And I was like,
Wow.
that's awesome.
Good
I wish
job,
I knew
Mom.
how to do that at your
Yeah,
age.
it's interesting. Entrepreneurs or people that are, doers, I guess I should say, uh, we generally find ourselves just doing, and then when a challenge comes, like we shift into some kind of a, I don't know, subconscious mode almost. Like you don't even know what you're doing. Next thing you know, you're to the other side of it. But when you can have this tool at your fingertips instead of just doing whatever it is you do, you have a tool that says, okay, let's bring it back. Let's look at this for a second. And instead of it being a, potentially catastrophic event, it's just another little obstacle. And you look at it, you assess it, you go, okay, what's the worst could happen here? Okay, well, we're not going to die. We're not going to lose our home. We're not going to, we can solve this. And that sort of brings things into perspective. And then you start looking, well, what are my options? And next thing you know, you choose one and you're moving forward instead of, oh no, what are we going to do? And all the chaos that ensues.
Hi, this is Joe Grumbine, and I wanted to share an update. The platform that hosts this podcast has made some changes to the subscriber settings, and we have a number of subscriber-only episodes that we offer to the supporters, and for a minimum of $3 a month, we can get you signed up. And if you're already signed up and you're having some kind of trouble locating these episodes in the other platforms, I would say maybe the best answer is to unsubscribe and then resubscribe. I'm sorry for the hassle. I don't have any way to make a change, but I'm very grateful for all the support. Thank you.
It's so interesting. Like the best way for me to describe, and I'm still working through the ontology of like what to call this, right?
Right.
But like presence feels so much like it feels expansive. So like when you're in fight or flight, it's like you just said, you just like time traveled through the
Oh,
chaos and it
yeah.
was just like, ah. But like when you're present, it's expansive. And then all of a sudden, like creativity comes in and
Right.
curiosity. And, I remember this individual, he wrote a book and Rick Rubin, and he, he's in the music industry and he had this beautiful quote that landed well with me, and I'm going to butcher it, but you'll get the context, which
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
it isn't about being creative. It's about being in the state so that creativity happens. And that's
Right.
like his magic.
Yeah.
And at first, I didn't understand that statement until I started going through this experience myself and was like, oh, that's it. Because
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, there's just movement. And what I love about this full circle with Green Goo is that your skin is not just your largest organ. It is rich in neurotransmitters. It is very connected to your nervous system,
Oh,
your
yeah.
immune system, your
Pinch
mindset. Like,
yourself. You'll know.
yeah. And when you have inflammation, you feel yuck. If you're stressed, you got your cortisol, going up, your immune system, is getting challenged. And so, like all the things that you can do that are rituals. And so, yes, we disrupted first aid and brought plant-based alternatives, but now looking at the skin differently, and it's a nutritive resource, and the more you nourish it, the more it serves you in a holistic way. And so my new mantra is I take the Green Goo and I'll have like Sunday sanctuary, I call it.
Nice.
I'll butter up, shoulders down, whether it's like my pain relief or, head to toe. Whether it's the pain relief because I want the analgesic, anti-inflammatory component, or if it's just my repair that's just like really hydrating. And I put it on head to toe and I put my bathrobe on and I enjoy 30 minutes. I, read or have tea or sit on the porch or sit and visit with my daughter. Just let it soak in. And then maybe it's the end of the day and I go to bed. Maybe it's the start of the day and I keep going, and you sleep better, you
Oh
feel
yeah,
different. And it's like you're feeding your body all of this like nutrients and flavonoids and antioxidants and hydration that it craves.
right.
And it's helping keep that balance. And so it's really been fun to see how that full circle has very much mirrored sort of my entrepreneurial and personal journey.
I love it. Well, it sounds like what you're describing is like the opposite of, the negative cascade that happens with a pain cycle. You injure yourself and then you have spasms, which causes inflammation, which causes more pain, which causes more spasms, and you end up with this or a migraine cycle, all the different, pain cycles that one thing causes another, just keeps getting worse and worse. Sounds like you found the antidote for that. You've got a positive cycle.
I've really enjoyed, and it's, interesting you should say that because a handful of years ago, we had a customer reach out to us who was Jane Doe number one, pulled from the World Trade Center. And
Whoa.
she sustained horrible injuries and eventually became dependent on opioids.
Mhm.
And she reached out because our Green Goo pain relief was the only solution that would help her as she was tapering down from the opioid withdrawal because she would have these massive seizures and pain. I
Sure.
mean, the pain associated with it. And she was like, this is the thing that's tapering me down. And of course, at the time, I'm thinking, okay, it's an anti or an analgesic. That's great. But now fast forward to how I understand the skin differently. It was also cultivating her in a way to help her with the mindset and the determination and that like pain loop that you're referencing in
Right.
a positive feedback loop. So interesting.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. You found the antidote for all of that. That's fantastic. Well, based on what I'm looking at, you have your company back, and now you're focusing on a little bit different. You're not just out there selling these products. You developed a system. You've developed some tools. And it looks like you're focusing on a community that seems like it's being pretty impressive based on what I'm looking at. Tell me about your community.
I just feel a deeper sense of purpose with what we've been through and also wanting to share that in a way that it can empower another entrepreneur, another parent, another partner, someone dealing with trauma, terminal illness, and these different resources that we can develop within ourselves and complement our wellness journey. I want to provide natural solutions to help people show up in the most authentic, joyful way that they can live.
Nice.
And Green Goo is part of that. And part of that is sharing our entrepreneurial story so that they can bring that wisdom into their day to day. And, it just gives me again, that deeper sense of purpose of what we've journeyed and, where we're going. And just super grateful.
So tell me how is this just an organic community that people are just reaching out to you, you're reaching back, or have you created a group or a site or holding workshops or how's it all working?
Still very early, but my
Okay.
daughter's helping me with an app right now.
All right.
My daughter,
I love it.
and finding ways that we can bring people closer together.
Okay.
Our mission is spread goodness. Our vision is bringing forward time honored traditions. It's not just the product and the process, but it's us here storytelling and starting that. And perhaps there'll be a Sunday sanctuary where we're meeting and workshopping even more together.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's amazing when a good idea turns into a good set of tools, products, information, whatever, and then organically turns into a community. That's just a beautiful progression of something that is worthy. So I'm really impressed with what I've heard. Um, you know, our listeners come from all walks of life, all ages, all educational brackets. We have everything from, rocket scientists and doctors to people just suffering from, ailments and looking to get some answers. Would you have a thought that you'd like to leave them with?
Well, don't wait to start bringing in cleaner ingredients in your life. And we have an acronym that we use at home, and I'll make it super quick. It's called shaman.
Okay.
And S is for sleep, add to the sleep bank. H is for hydration, not just water that you drink, but the food that you eat, rich in hydration, the products you put on your body. We are water. So bringing that beautiful hydration in. A is antioxidants. So you're just thinking about, does this have antioxidants or does it not? And that made it simple for my daughter from a nutrition standpoint.
Sure.
Is it going to serve me and give me that or not? And including even the things you put on your body.
Sure.
M is mindfulness and just giving yourself those moments to be mindful. Set that alarm every 3 hours. I challenge you and feel the difference. And A is avoid. Avoid the things that don't serve you. And that made it really easy for my daughter as well, because sometimes she's like, you can't do everything right. But sometimes you can just avoid a handful of things that do well.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And it could be people and situations. It doesn't even have to just be
Yeah, food,
food.
it could be a situation, it could be a type of person, it could be just anything. And that's a beautiful, I like that one maybe as much as everything else. I think that's a really powerful tool.
And the last one is nature. N for
Love it.
nature. Get out in nature,
Yes,
especially when you're hijacked. Sometimes you're like, you know what? Just get out in nature. And what I love is equitable. Like all of those things are equitable, and it doesn't cost a bunch of money to be able to just have a little shaman in your life.
right. I think that's a fantastic approach. I like what you're doing. I like how you're doing it. And obviously, we're going to have people go, well, I need to get a hold of this lady. How do I get a hold of her?
Go to greengoo.com. You'll find me. Matter of fact, when we do our email, like we'll call it retention marketing, when we follow up with you after you order, it
Uh-huh.
literally comes from my email address. So people will respond and be like, you just answered. That's so strange. You bet I did. And I just so appreciate spending time with our customers. So
I love it. Well, Jodi, this has been a insightful and enjoyable conversation. And as you're progressing along building this community, I'd certainly like to stay in touch. So feel free to pop back by when there's something that you want to share in addition to all this. I have a lot of guests that, every year or two they pop in and give us an update on what's going on. And I think, it's part of the whole community idea. I love the idea of community. So just want to thank you for being here and invite you to come on back.
thank you. Beautiful. I would love that. Appreciate you.
Beautiful. Well, this has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine. I want to thank all of our listeners that make the show possible, and we will see you next time.
This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.